The First Battle of Fallujah, 2004. Imagine a city on fire, a city where every street, every corner echoes with the sounds of war. This is Fallujah, April 2004, a city that became the stage for one of the most brutal battles in modern history. It all began with a single, shocking event, a spark that ignited an inferno. On March 31st, 2004, a Blackwater security convoy was ambushed in the heart of Fallujah. 4 American contractors were killed, their bodies burned, and 2 were hung from a bridge. The images were horrifying. Burning vehicles, charred remains, and a crowd of insurgents cheering in the background. These images didn't just shock the world. They became a rallying cry for Iraqi resistance. For the U.S., it was a call to action. Fallujah had to be taken, no matter the cost. By early April, U.S. forces were on the move. Tanks, helicopters, and thousands of troops surrounded Fallujah. The city was cut off, its supply lines severed. The Americans were ready for a fight, but so were the Iraqis. Fallujah wasn't just a city, it was a fortress. A fortress defended by a determined resistance, fueled by anger, pride, and the support of Arab mujahideen who had come from across the region to join the fight. The stage was set. On April 4, 2004, Operation Vigilant Resolve began. The skies above Fallujah lit up with airstrikes, and the ground shook under the weight of artillery fire. The Americans thought it would be quick. They were wrong. As U.S. troops entered the city, they were met with a storm of bullets and RPGs. The streets of Fallujah turned into a deadly maze. Every corner hit a sniper, every alleyway a potential ambush. The resistance wasn't just fighting, they were defending their homes, their families, their city, and they were willing to die for it. American soldiers found themselves pinned down, taking cover behind destroyed vehicles, their radios crackling with desperate calls for backup. The resistance was relentless. They used the city's narrow streets and crumbling buildings to their advantage, striking fast and disappearing into the shadows. Amid the chaos, the civilians of Fallujah paid the heaviest price. Families were trapped in their homes, caught between the crossfire. Hospitals overflowed with the wounded, and the streets were littered with the dead. The city became a symbol of suffering, a place where the horrors of war were on full display. U.S. forces faced not just a military challenge, but a moral one. How do you fight an enemy that hides among civilians? How do you win a battle when every step forward comes at the cost of innocent lives? In the heart of the battle, a name began to echo through the streets of Fallujah. Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, the leader of al-Qaeda in Iraq. Zarqawi became the face of the resistance. His fighters, a mix of Iraqis and foreign mujahideen, brought a new level of ferocity to the fight. They didn't just attack, they terrorized. Car bombs, suicide attacks, and brutal executions became their weapons of choice. Zarqawi's presence turned Fallujah into a magnet for jihadists from across the Arab world. They came to fight the Americans, to defend their fellow Muslims, and to make Fallujah a graveyard for the invaders. Weeks into the battle, the Americans realized they were in a quagmire. The resistance was too strong, the city too complex. Every street taken came at a high cost. The U.S. military, the most powerful in the world, was being pushed to its limits by a determined and resourceful enemy. By late April, the U.S. was forced to call a ceasefire. The battle had become too costly, both in lives and in reputation. Fallujah was handed over to an Iraqi force, the Fallujah Brigade, but the city was far from pacified. The resistance had won a symbolic victory, and the Americans had learned a hard lesson. Fallujah was not just a city, it was a symbol of defiance. When the dust settled, Fallujah was in ruins. Buildings were reduced to rubble, streets were littered with debris, and the city's spirit was shattered. But the battle was far from over. Fallujah remained a stronghold of resistance, a place where the flames of rebellion continued to burn. For the Americans, the First Battle of Fallujah was a wake-up call. It showed them that the war in Iraq would not be won with tanks and airstrikes alone. For the Iraqis, it was a moment of pride. They had stood up to the world's superpower and lived to fight another day. The First Battle of Fallujah was more than just a military engagement. It was a turning point in the Iraq War. It revealed the resilience of the Iraqi resistance, the complexity of urban warfare, and the high cost of occupation. Fallujah became a symbol of resistance, of suffering, and of the brutal reality of war. And as the smoke cleared over the city, one thing became clear. Fallujah was not just a battle, it was a warning that the road to victory in Iraq would be long, bloody, and uncertain. Fade to silence. Fade to